Alright, just a little riff for you there. It's going to be about the bitch. Which one? Right? And I'm talking about the crypto. You probably know him as Tommy Robinson. Or, yes, that's what you know him as. But his real name is Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon. And his real name is Stephen Christopher Lennon. Did I just say you probably know him as that? Okay, that's it. I just messed up there. So anyways, first of all, he's a name changer. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Who else changes their names, right? Who changes their name every chance they get? It's a certain person. Certain type of people have to change their names all the time to fit in because something about their previous name doesn't always fit in where they're trying to take over very well. But here we have, you see, I get different results. I made a video about that, didn't post it, about the algorithms and stuff. But when you search for his real name, these were some of the first pictures I came up with. I'm not sure if you can see all that very well. I can see it, but the contrast in these videos is always off compared to what I'm actually seeing. So you don't know, but we have Mr. Name Changer Bitch himself right there. And we have the Jewess, Pamela Geller. And we have his boyfriend over there. Who's his boyfriend? Huh. He's like always with that guy. You guys ever heard of him? Robert Spencer? I know I've heard of him. That's because he was one of the first people and one of the few Jews to slip up and report on me. And that was back when I allowed a bunch of spelling errors so it would look like I was retarded, and people would just call me out for my spelling. You know, they, like, you know how the tactics are. They're going to attack you for what you do. You know, your dick's little, or I could tell because I was sucking it the other day, or your hair is stupid. Your finger looks stupid. And so, of course, if I didn't care about my spelling, they're going to be like, your spelling is stupid. It's so stupid. You don't even know how to spell. It's like, nah. First of all, you don't know fucking words because it's typing. Just because I mess up on typing or because I don't care. Doesn't mean anything. But He's one of the 2 outlets who I know attack me. But it's not like I care. I don't monitor these people. I guess I tried to see if Breitbart interviewed me or aired our interview, and I couldn't find anything. But other than that, I just wanted to see how they would spin that. Apparently, they couldn't find a good spin, so they just didn't air it. Well, but he's one of the few who's attacked me, so I've known about him for a couple years before he attacked me, because I was attacking him already. I was like, you're a fucking liar and all this shit. So he reports to me, the genocidal Joe hater who can't spell and shit. And all that. But that's his pals, right? And it's interesting to note that there is a picture here. I'm not getting the freaking same results, unfortunately, on my computer. I was just going to show you this and pull it up, but you can see here that there is a Star of David right there, flag, Star Molech. But in the other pictures, when he's with this guy, the Star of David is actually inside the EDL flag. So that's who this bitch is. Let's get bent down. Yeah, guys are cutting my face off or something. Maybe, possibly. So he is one of them, obviously. I mean, what else is there to say? Everyone knows this, right? I'm not the first person to do a video on this, but I looked into this dude like forever ago. And it just like right away, you're like, oh, the EDL, oh, they're protecting the Jews, and oh, look at that, another fake Nazi. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm always saying, don't fucking worry about Europe, because they use Canada and Europe. They bring their media in, like, isn't Rebel Canadian and, Stefan Molyneux? I mean, so many of them tried to move in on American market share. Apparently, we're like the largest market in the world. Everyone wants to be like us. Everyone wants to be part of our market. But that's not these people's goals usually. Usually these non-Americans' goal is because they're working for the Jews, and it's harder to disprove them, and it also spreads disinformation in their countries to do this. Now, when you live in another nation and you look a little stupid, like Justin Trudeau, or you guys might know him as Justin Trudeau. When you look stupid like that, you're like, it's a Canadian. They all look stupid. That's the American train of thought. You're like, oh, it's a space alien. It looks stupid. Oh, it's a Russian. They look stupid. Oh, it's an Asian. They look stupid. Oh, it's an Arab. They look like pretty stupid. That's just the American way. I suppose that's the way in every other freaking country too, right? Especially with France, where the people are actually pretty, and they're probably like, God damn, you people look stupid everywhere. Maybe the Brits have a problem saying everyone looks stupid, right? They probably look in the mirror and they're like, God damn, you look stupid. But I know with America, that's the way it is, right? So you can pass that off easy, but Justin Trudeau looks exactly like Trudeau. He looks exactly like that. He looks like Leigh Merchant 1,000%, and like no one talks about that. I mean, and I think that's, first of all, that's because Americans fucking shouldn't be talking about other nations. What are they going to like fucking offer us a Statue of Liberty or something? Or, I mean, be honest, those people actually are part of, the French are part of America. They helped us revolt and all that. So, let's not cut on them and Canada too much, but look at who Justin Trudeau is my point. You can look at that face and you can analyze it as like Merchant, but no one even says that, because when we analyze these non-Americans, we just see them as all looking stupid generally. So that's the way it is. You can't be like, oh, it looks like Lane Merchant. You're like, I don't know what the fuck a Canadian even looks like, so I can't say that for sure. But Canadians don't look like Trustin Judo. They look like fucking like Swedish, Scandinavian, Norwegian type people, which is odd because they're supposed to be like French, you know. But it is what it is, you know. Where generally when I see them, they're like, they do really look like us. Like, unlike other peoples, they do look like us and, you know, Scandinavian type, Swedish, Norway area type people. So he shouldn't look like that. You can tell but you don't think of that because it's just like, oh, it's a Canadian, but you still listen to them. Americans still listen to all this shit when it gets put in your face, like rebel media. I suppose people actually listen to that. I know I don't, but you know, you got the offshoots. Lauren Southern, who knows where the fuck she's from or what? But if Rebel's from Canada, then she's probably from there too, right? So then you have the Europeans across seas who are even less relevant to America. I mean, Canada's not relevant to America anymore. They might have helped us overthrow the British, but they're just not relevant to America because they haven't been participating in anything in the world. I mean, at least in the UK and Europe, you know, they've had battle after battle. You know, they've been trying to change around. They've been trying to change who they are and have some sort of standing on the worldwide political stage. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I had to reset the oven timer. Okay, but anyways, when they use these people, these foreigners, to create these other controlled opposition type groups, they do it. I mean, these foreigners, real foreigners, know that, you know, they might worship America and all that shit, but they have their own governments and stuff. And the point of most of this is to just give you like a viewpoint that the rest of the world is in the same deception as you are, and no questioning at all, because that's like all they give you, really, right? Is you know, UK Mail, which is in like pretty much like not a real media site. I suppose the UK Mail to people in the UK is actually like the Sun, the Inquirer, you know, like worse than Unsolved Mysteries. Unsolved Mysteries was good, but the Sun and the Inquirer, for those of you not in America, that's like gossip trash. Like, they're like, George Bush had a bat baby and then it had an elephant baby. And you don't really, I think, I would say you don't really believe that, but I think the people buy that shit believe most of it. And I think sometimes they use it to like sweep real shit under the rug. Like, Princess Di assassinated. It's like, and then below it, it's like, Care Bears come to Earth to save the humans. And you're like, hey, Princess Di wasn't assassinated. So it's like a gossip rag that's designed to put out useless trash, but at the end of the day, they'll throw in some real stuff to trick your minds. But that's pushed as like real news in America. And I mean, that's like what you find when you search the web in America. You can't find some other news in the UK. This is trash. And it's like Russia gives you Russia Today. Apparently there's no other media allowed in Russia. And maybe there isn't, because that's government-ran media. And in Russia, I think the government controls all the media, so that's probably all there is. But there's probably a Russia for Russians, and it's probably not called Russia Today, because that focuses on America. And I believe I subscribe to some other Russian channel, which is Russian politicians speaking, although it's called Russia Insider, although it feels like it really is designed for Americans, but they even keep it in the Russian language, but it's our actual politicians speaking and stuff, you know, and they aren't like our useless politicians who just sit there and, hey pack, although they do cheer on Israel and Mossad, but that's like all we see on TV. Like, we don't see our politicians like speaking and debating with each other. It's just like a whole one-sided thing every time. And what you're allowed to see is that. But over there, what you're allowed to see is probably controlled too. So in each of these nations, they have these controlled opposition groups for America that's seemingly distinctively separate from what's going on now. Is Tommy Robinson, or Crypto Tommy Robinson, is he actually a superstar over there? I think he possibly is, but most of the other alt-right groups that surround him are not. The superstars over there, they are trying to be superstars in America, and then that's a sure sign they're controlled opposition. You know, is Varg Vikernes, does he have a lot of followers in Europe? Yes, he does. Probably those people talk about European traditions in his comments, and they don't have the arrogance and braggadocio that Americans generally have, so I'm assuming he's actually one of the Europeans speaking to European media, speaking to European medias. You're speaking to European peoples. But they do have these set up groups. And I think we have our own groups here that try to cater to them, but not so much. It's, you know, I mean, we're kind of like the heart of it all. So most of the stuff, it seems to be targeted towards us. But he is like the UK, which is like a huge crypto center. I mean, these are the people we fought off in the late 1700s, right? I believe technically that's called right, is it the 1600s or the 1800s? I forget. It's either, when you discuss a time period, you call it the one before or the one after. I don't know. Don't even quote me on that. Make sure you look it up. I know I looked it up in the past, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it's done. It's one of the others. But I'm talking about I'm not talking about. That's another argument about how they manipulate time over and over and over and over and over and over and over. So it's all confusing. When you look back at the past, you think you're in year 2000, and you're really not. I mean, it's the time and the way it's worded is deception. Now, I suppose they're including the year, 200, 300, and that's, that's why. And then the year 10, the year 20, and one of those two would be why when you say 1800s, you're talking about like the 1700s. But when I say 1700s, I'm talking about the 1700s that we know according to the Christian calendar. And when I say other stuff like 5777, 5776, I'm going by the Hebrew calendar. So the time in the 1700s, we fought off those UK people at the late 1700s because they were trying to take our guns and overtax and enslave our people. Now, we had a few people on that side. Captain John Smith was teaching us how to rebel against the army and nation he had worked for since he was a preteen, pretty much, a very early teen. And the UK, they get pushed as like our buddy and all that, but we literally celebrate killing them every year. I mean, it's like the biggest freaking holiday. Christmas I don't think Christmas is bigger than 4th of July. There's massive spending, government spending going on 4th of July, just to blow stuff up, to like symbolize blowing up the UK. And everyone goes out in their yard for a month before and a month after. You hear explosions all over the frickin' neighborhood and gunshots, bangs, because they're celebrating destroying the UK, because the UK was trying to enslave us. They wanted us to be one of their colonies, and we weren't having that. So they try to convince us in the last 100 years that the UK is like our friend and all this shit. And the people of the UK, many of them might be, but I wouldn't count that. I mean, look at what you guys been doing. They probably feel like they're your bitch. Kind of like we felt in the late 1700s is probably how they feel at this point. But their media is like, was controlled by the Queen in the open and still is probably in the, just behind the scenes. I've looked into it and it really just, it sounds like, yeah, they didn't relinquish any control. They word of mouth, through propaganda, they said, yes, we did, but they didn't. So the UK is really controlled. I mean, the UK, it used to be this large empire until we fought it back, and then it fell apart, and it became this small area. So it's very easily controlled because it's a small area, which actually, they don't have like so many buildings like we do, where we have like a ton of 50-story, apartment buildings in the center of our city, along with way huge outputs. Like one of our cities, I think, is like pretty much the size of the UK. So that's that. And then they have a bunch of countryside. And when I say a bunch, you just look at it on the map. There's not a bunch. There's not much there. It's not so relevant, but we get pushed. The UK is like our friends, and they're so relevant because they're like a stepping stone for us or something. I don't know. Maybe they deserve it because they tried to colonize us, and we turned them into our colony, kind of. But we shouldn't listen to their people who are being put in the spotlight, because it's more the same shit. The UK Mail talks about Kim Kardashian 24/7 and all that crap. Big Brother, and they got Big Brother UK. It's like, man, this is just the normal Paris Hilton garbage. Like, they are not a legit news source, and they can't be, because their people are enslaved and they can't talk about certain things. And that brings us right back to Tommy Robinson, who he couldn't say anything if he wanted to about the Jews, because he would be in prison like he is now for the Muslims. But he's not trying to expose that to you. He knew he would end up in jail for talking about the Muslims, because it's the same hate crime charge. If you talk about the Jews, or you talk about the Arabs, or you talk about the Muslims. I'm sorry, they mean Arabs, but they're scared to say it because it's a dog whistle. Now, when you say Jew, it's a dual dog whistle, so it can't be used as a dog whistle. It's an all-encompassing term. It's actually used as a deceptive term, not a dog whistling term. Like, which dogs are you whistling? You're whistling fucking dogs that hate dogs and going to kill dogs, and dogs over here that are loyal, and dogs over here that are dumb. I mean, it's like a multi-dog whistle, and when you call it, it's known to call all sorts of wrong people to the discussion. So it's not a good dog whistle, but if they come up, he knows he can come out against the Muslims, and he's going to face what he's facing now, jail time and all this stuff. Not that I really think he's facing jail time. I think some of this stuff is staged, or most of it. Some people think it's all staged. But he knew the consequences of if he comes out and does this. He knew where that would lead, whether it's to a staged arrest or a real arrest. He knew that. And he also knew that if he does the same thing with the Jew, it's going to lead to the same thing, a staged arrest or a real arrest, depending on who he works for. And he knows that Arabs don't control his government. He is probably likely deep enough in the government that he knows that Foundation X is actually called out by Lord James. Or is it Lord James of Heath? Is that, am I getting his name and his position correct? But when Foundation X was called out, we can assume they were talking about the Jews and possibly Rothschild. Someone at that point in time, I said Rothschild, but coming to learn later, there's not just one Rothschild person who controls the entirety of the planet. I mean, unless you want to. Okay, sorry about that. I need to get a drink. Maybe I should have tested talking before I started this again. Okay, so they know, the leaders of the UK know other stuff's going on. And, when he came out, or James Blackheath, when he came out and said, talked about Foundation X, he was like scared. I mean, the dude was like, he reminded me of like a Ron Paul, but he wasn't being a coward. And I mean, I guess he was kind of not naming them, but he was, I guess they had a special name. They have a special name they call these people, so they don't call them. And apparently it's Foundation X. And he said some very interesting things in that. So the UK is very well aware. Like I said, when I said this is a large empire that was shrunk down back to a small city-state population, that means they know what's going on inside of that area. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what goes on inside of Columbus. Nothing goes on inside of Columbus. So everyone knows that. Everyone in LA knows what goes on in LA. Everyone in the world knows what goes on in LA. Everyone in Bronx, New York knows what's going on in Bronx, New York. So everyone in the UK knows what's going on in the UK. There's nothing to talk about. The UK doesn't have any reason to sit around and talk about the Irish unless they're talking about conquering them. They don't have any reason to talk about the French, who are a little ways away. They don't have any real reason to talk about the Russia, because if they open their mouths too much, I mean, Russia's like, bow, and they're like, bow, just shut up. Shh. Don't fucking talk about them, because they'll come back for us. So the UK knows all this stuff. These people know it. Tommy Robinson is too high up to not know what's going on. Like I said in my video, those who know too much but don't say it. So, there's so many ways you can word it, but that's really what it is. These people are leaders. You're looking up to them because you think they're so intelligent and they know so much. But if they know so much, why do they know so little? And you give them a free pass because of it. Now, why does Alex Jones know so much, but he doesn't know it's the Jews? And he thinks it's the Arabs. Why does Tommy Robinson not know it's the Jews and he thinks it's the Arabs? Why does, Noam Chomsky not know it's the Jews like him who own the media and think it's the Zionists? I mean, these questions are really simple, and you want to be forgiving of people. You want to give people the chance. You don't want to write people off real fast, but these people are a network of people who have been deceiving for a long time. They know too much to be saying too little, and they repeatedly prove this. I mean, look, he's hanging out with Pamela Geller. You know who Pamela Geller is? When I did my libertarian video, I did that video, right? I know I've displayed the information in so many other places. Hard to remember where and what I've done, but I've done most of it everywhere except for here. And she is actually a libertarian. You know how it's easy to spot that? Because the only way I spotted it, because I was all around the libertarians, and there's never mention of Pamela Geller. In fact, I insulted her because the obvious, what they were doing, anti-Arab stuff. But you go to her, but this is when people didn't, know that, Ayn Rand was on, what, was it Jerry Springer? Whatever she was on, she was a Zionist. So Ron Paul ain't telling you that. None of the other Talmudic libertarians are telling you that. Russian Jew Adam Kokesh ain't telling you that. Open borders for America, Kokesh, closed borders for Israel and Rand, ain't telling you that. So she, the libertarian, and this is easily seen because her website is like atlasshrug.com, which is libertarian and ran. And which is weird because the words Atlas Shrug also ties back into a video game propaganda for child called BioShock. Also, when at least when it had turned, now maybe all along it was designed by them, but at least when it turned to a Nazi-ish plus anti-white propaganda at the same time, that was definitely ran by Jew Levin, I believe. So, those are words that prove she is libertarian, and reading it, and then you learn that, and you can look into it, and you'll see, yeah, she's been kind of like a libertarian, except for anyone in the libertarian movement. If you're on the internet, you can do the research and you can know they never once gave you Pamela Geller as a libertarian. Now, I think they gave her as a libertarian through like Fox News. That's possible. I know a person I could ask in my family who could talk about all that because he knows, from that side. He doesn't know like the openness of the internet and all that, but I could just listen to him and he would end up telling me if that was the case, if I didn't ask him directly. But she was clearly part of the libertarian deception, but a real small key part that was being hidden from those on the internet and those backing Ron Paul on the internet. And somehow I got the idea that those watching the TV weren't really backing Ron Paul a lot. They didn't think he was their god, even though they were being pushed. Pamela Geller, every libertarian, John Stossel, libertarian, and others. So he's hanging out with her, and she's like from the previous generations of deceptions. Now, Richard Spencer, or what did I say his name was? I mean, it's been 10 years since I dealt with this dude, right? So, Islamophobia, Robert Spencer. See, I mean, look, they even have some of the same names. This dude's like, you can just look at him and tell he's a Jew, but I don't think he's trying to deny that, but I don't think he's trying to tell you that. But if you can't look at Robert Spencer and tell he's a Jew, then there's a lot. Well, you can't put a video out there telling you how to explain what a Jew is. I've kind of snuck it in here and there, but I doubt that's going to stay anywhere if you start detailing features of a Jewish person. Although, if you start detailing features of a white person, that might get removed too. And you might be like, that's hateful because it's pro-white or something. However they'll construe it. It's weird.